if this thing is working right now. Let's check. Just checking a couple of settings right here. Yeah, give me a second, please. Someone is connected. Still is gonna be recorded, so yeah, give me a second, please. Checking if everything is right. Everything is right. Yeah, something here. Okay. 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 Yeah. Well, welcome with this Sunday live about this is gonna be, mostly a discussion for investors regarding macroeconomics, real estate, investing, and a couple of news. But we're gonna focus today mostly on economic stuff. So no politics, no military affairs. Thanks, thank God. And we are gonna go ahead and do what? Review a couple of things. The first thing that we are going to review is I put on my social media different a playlist of different videos that will become handy for potential investors, people who are novice in Venezuela, and how will information that will become handy, because since right now basically I have two set of people on the audience. I have the season audience that knows a couple of things about Venezuela already, have been following me for a while. A handful of them are already my clients. And by the way, shout out to you. And if you're new on the audience, please give them a shout out as well, because they pay for the bills. I mean, they are paid customers that allow me to create a lot of free content and have a lot of free, do a bunch of work for free that I can share and create these resources that allow other people to, just get into it and get involved and have a little bit of the taste of the things going on. I have here Nicolas Pietro. Hola, hi. Hi, Nicolas. Nicolas or Nicolas, I don't know. Welcome. Welcome to the people that just are connecting. So first, okay, I want to go with this playlist and why I put it. I'm going to give just a quick, summary of this video. The first one, why you can Google your way in Venezuela. Because if you're watching this from abroad, never been in Venezuela, or know very little about Venezuela, you are going to try to Google your way into the country just on your computer, on your pajamas, on your laptop, on your smartphone. Sorry. And you think that you are going to get everything, and yeah, that's completely wrong. First, there's a lot of misinformation, and after this military buildup started, the misinformation has gotten even worse. I mean, even media like the New York Times, they are giving you terrible analysis and terrible information, even what I think is the best mainstream media platform covering Venezuela, that is the Wall Street Journal, even they are having significant miscues about the country. And yeah, I have some comments here. Onur Martinez. Hi, welcome, Onur. And yeah, you need, I mean, the years, the decades of experience that I have in Venezuela. This is something, there is no substitute for experience in the country. So if you think that you're gonna just show up and bat, and your batting average is gonna be 1,000, yeah, that's not gonna happen. And you're gonna lose a lot of money and a lot of time figuring that one out. So if you're relying only on Google or what do you search on social media, you're gonna get it wrong. And after the military buildup, something that happened is that there are a lot of weird people with weird bias that are very wrong and very mistaken about the country. First, you have, of course, the communists. That, I mean, if you are an investor or something, they got it wrong most of the time. The left-leaning, communist, progressive, these kind of people, they're gonna get it wrong. And if you are a serious investor, you know this thing. I mean, I don't discriminate politically. I don't have a particular political bias. But when you put it, on tangible terms, I mean, regarding economics and different affairs, tangible affairs, they are going to get it wrong, and that's what worries me. And so, on that regard, we already knew this. But I'm seeing still, a lot, this particular other subset of bias that is usually what they call woke right, usually pro-Russian, anti-Israel, and whatever, and they are giving terrible analysis. I mean, completely wrong analysis. That is either because these people are fooled, and if you take their words at face value, these people are fools, and I cannot say it otherwise. Well, I'm not gonna do it again, but I mop the floor with all of these analysts that are terrible. And these people are, I mean, they got completely annihilated. I'm talking, metaphorically speaking, regarding their thoughts and ideas. I was right yet again, and they were wrong yet again. I already did a couple of videos reacting to that. For instance, and now, since they have been proven wrong, and I was proven right, again, I'm sorry, I have to do it. Right now, these people are regrouping, and they fail on their political, social, and military analysis. They fail, and I was right. And right now, they're regrouping and doing now a terrible economic analysis about Venezuela, and I'm gonna mop the floor. I mean, just like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, I'm gonna do it, yeah, like this. I mean, for instance, you have this guy, the Colonel Douglas McGregor. He's pro-Russian and anti-Semite, something like that. Okay, this guy was completely inept regarding the analysis about Venezuela. And the only thing he got right, and the only thing that I agree with him, is that something was about to happen and already happened. But for the rest, he struck out every time, and I just hit any time. Now, on military affairs, this guy is a freaking colonel, and I'm a civilian, and I mop the floor with his analysis. Imagine that right now, people like him are gonna give terrible economic analysis on economics. That's my forte, that's my area of expertise. So just keep that in mind, and I'm seeing terrible analysis, terrible economic analysis after the special military operation. I mean, if the Russians can say that, I can. So be aware of that. Now, on this particular playlist that I put, I'm gonna leave it after the live stream. I'm gonna leave it on the description below. I have comment here, Martin from Sevilla, Spain. I was recently in Sevilla. Hi, Martin. Welcome. I love Sevilla, by the way. I love Andalusia. I love Spain, Spaniard people, very cool people, very nice people. Yeah, I love Spain. Okay, now the second video is similar to the first. This time, why you can AI your way into Venezuela. And okay, thank you, Martin, for subscribing. Okay, I've done this. I run, my own, I stress test my ideas, something that I like to do a lot, not only with people expert on different areas, for instance, like military, or people who are just experts on real estate and all that good stuff, and also pollsters, something that I'm doing recently, and I'm gonna keep doing in years to come, is that I stress test a lot. No problem. Yeah, sorry, I lost. You have to keep in mind that I stress test. Keep in mind that I stress test my ideas about Venezuela. That I know I was right on ChatGPT, Grok, or whatever, any AI that you like to use. And uh, even AI gave me a lot of very incomplete information because, of course, AI uses the Intel that is already, is open source on internet, and they don't have the boots on the ground that I have and the experience that I have dealing with Venezuelan affairs. And even AI gave me a terrible analysis, very incomplete analysis about Venezuela. I will say, yeah. I mean, Elon, what's going on? Grok still, you need to, speed things up pronto on Grok because it's lackluster for Venezuela. I mean, I like Grok. I love Elon, by the way. Elon, please don't do anything to me. And yeah, so if you rely on AI alone, you're going to lose a lot of money and a lot of time regarding Venezuela. Okay, the third video that I put on this playlist is the Venezuelan shoeshine boy. And this is just a typical story. Comes from the recession, the Wall Street collapse on 1929, and then that led to the 1930s depression in the United States. That back then, the roaring 20s, 1920s in the United States, the stock market was all-time high. Back then, of course, many years ago. And something that happens when you have a bubble, a financial bubble or an investment bubble, is that everyone starts talking about it. And one of the major investors back then, it was a Kennedy, I believe. He was, just on the streets with getting his shoes getting shined by, a humble kid on the street. And meanwhile, this Kennedy investor, Kennedy family member investor, the Shushan boy started talking about, hey, Mr. Kennedy, you should invest on this particular stock or whatever, and yada yada. And as soon as the kid finished with the shoes, Kennedy sold every stock, every investment that he had because he realized that we are on the bubble because if a kid on the street is speaking about the stock market, it's because it's already late. It's going to become a bubble. And there are similar stories on the dot-com bubble on the 90s when, the taxi driver was speaking about, tech stocks back then, Amazon.com and Pets.com and whatever. And the real investors, the seasoned investors said, okay, this is a bubble, I'm going to take my money out. And still a bunch of people lost money. Well, the same principle applies in Venezuela. If a random Venezuelan person, that of course, they know the situation on the streets in Venezuela, and you can get some on that, cool. But most of these persons, especially the migrants, most of them know very little about financials, economics, investing, and yada, yada, yada. So they're going to give you a terrible advice. And they are going to give you a terrible advice because they are not experts on this macroeconomics or anything like that. It's like, there is a saying in Wall Street, buy the rumor, sell the news. Now, of course, a lot of people are catching up on the hype right now and want to try, calming down. When I published the Venezuelan Shushan Boy, that was a couple of years ago, and the situation was bad back then, and I was speaking that there was a lot of potential that right now is coming to fruition, and now is the opportunity that I spoke a couple of years ago when everyone was just, they just gave up on Venezuela. And I knew that we are going to reach this particular moment. And I prepared my audience and my clients back then to be ready for this moment. Now, we are still early, and that's the good news. Something that you have to take the opportunity because we are on the midst of a transition. So this is the best time to do the due diligence, not go crazy, just the due diligence for your particular profile. And don't treat Venezuela as some sort of meme stock or NFT, YOLO, and crypto bro, anything like that. Don't have this attitude. It's the attitude to know the market and know the fundamentals. Okay? Okay. And yeah, that's about the Shushan Boy. Please, you can check my Twitter on Twitter X, sorry, Ireland, and I posted on the publications of the community this particular playlist because it's very important, especially if you are a novice. And if you have a seasoned watcher of this channel, also it's good to review. Most of the videos are 10 minutes or less, so half an hour, you can just get to the point. Okay, the fourth one is the Dunning-Kruger effect in Venezuela, and this is something that I'm seeing a lot, especially from these pro-Russian, anti-Israel people, and let alone the communists and progressives. That the Dunning-Kruger effect is something in psychology, is when someone that knows just a little bit about a particular subject, they think they are experts. Meanwhile, the seasoned individual on such particular subject, they know that they know better, and even they have a lot of knowledge, still they are cautious because there is a lot of information that they still don't know. I'm going to put it simply. The dumb people think that they are smart, and the smart people think that they are dumb. And it's quite the opposite, of course. And that happens a lot with Venezuela because the experts in Venezuela, especially the non-Venezuelans, what they know is what they see, in mainstream media or social media. Usually is, seasoned with their particular bias. So if they are pro-Russian, they're going to give the pro-Russian bias, or if they are communists, they're going to be pro-communist, or if they are center-left or center-right or whatever. So they just have that particular angle, and most of the time it's going to be mistaken, especially if they don't know anything about the country. Same thing goes to the average Venezuelan, and here's why. Because the average Venezuelan doesn't know about economics, investing, anything like that. You're going to see, I'm seeing this a lot, especially from the realtors, because how they sell Venezuela, because these people, at the end of the day, the realtors are salesmen. They are not analysts, they are not investors, anything like that. They don't know the priorities of a seasoned investor. Important thing. And the last, the fifth video that I put on the playlist is lazy investing in Venezuela. This video goes basically to the people that just like to be, comfy on their pajamas, on their laptop working, and they have the mindset of just buying, some cheap ETF or just buying crypto on their wallet, on their trading account, and that's it. And they want to treat Venezuela like an ETF that you can buy and sell, and that's it. And yeah, Venezuela is way more complicated than that. And if you are trying to profit from the situation, just sitting on your couch or with your pajamas on your laptop, yeah, you're not gonna do anything. You're not gonna achieve anything. Okay, great news on that regard. And well, that wasn't news. It was just, you know, free resources that you can use. Not no questions. Okay, gonna address some questions that I got offline. Now, first, I'm gonna get a couple of news that I just got recently. From the Wall Street Journal, they just announced that Cuba, that used to get free oil from Venezuela on the past 24 years or something like that, even I think 25 years or so since Hugo Chavez, they won the free oil to Cuba just has been completely cut off, and Cuba won't be receiving any free oil from Venezuela. So that's good news for the cash flow within the country, because all that money is gonna go back, it's gonna be sold at a market rate without sanctions and going back to the country. Same thing with China. China has been cut from cheap discounted oil, between 25 and 40% of discount, thanks to the sanctions and thanks to, of course, some deals that the Venezuelan government had with China, but they have been cut off as well. And the only place where the Venezuelan crude oil is going right now is to the United States of America, and is being paid at not a premium but a fair market price. So basically, Venezuela right now will get 100% of their oil revenue back to the country. Sorry about it. That's but good news. Other news that I got, this comes from Washington D.C., that apparently right now Washington is in charge of Venezuela, allegedly, that the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank are gonna, put some money in Venezuela, just maybe by this year, when the legal red tape is figured out. And also the electric grid from Venezuela is gonna be revamped, and the investment is gonna come from Washington. Yet again, but this is due that the United States finish the legal transition and create a good rule of law that Venezuela didn't have in the past few years, especially in the past couple of years, and solves the political situation overall of the country. And right now we are on track on that. I mean, it has been only 2 weeks since the special military operation, and the situation is, we're getting some traction on a good and peaceful transition. Okay. What else? Yeah, forgot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check a couple of my notes here. So money is coming to Venezuela. Now, another thing that I want to address for the new audience, compared to the seasoned audience that they already know this, especially my clients, they know it very well, is that Venezuela is not a poor country. Venezuela is an impoverished country. That's a complete different concept. So if you're gonna treat Venezuela like it's Africa or Haiti or something like that, you are going to lose your money and your time. Venezuela has been historically the richest country in Latin America. And then the economy was artificially destroyed, so it was destroyed on purpose. And the solution, when you destroy something on purpose, in order to, build back better, as Biden used to say, well, the solution is just stop destroying. So in Venezuela, you don't need Lee Kuan Yew like in Singapore, or a sheikh of Dubai and Abu Dhabi or something like that. You don't need anything apparently that has been the mandate for the new authorities. They are gonna just stop destroying. And so in that regard, Venezuelan GDP right now is a little bit over 100 billion. And the real GDP should be, the nominal GDP should be around half a trillion, 500 billion. And just this year, and yeah, I'm gonna explain that a little bit later, but the point is that if you come with this particular mindset, if you're from abroad and know very little about the country, if you come thinking that you're gonna be special just because you are an international, especially a Western international, an American, a Canadian, a German, or whatever, you're gonna fail miserably. Because first, Venezuela is not cheap. Venezuela is de facto dollarized. The properties are not cheap. I mean, are cheaper, and you can get some great deals. Now the prices are rising rapidly. And by the way, everything in Venezuela is rising, and also we are seeing less friction for the economy overall. So we have some cross currents on that regard. One of the reasons why Venezuela is expensive is because a lot of the frictions that the economy has that are going to be removed. So that's deflationary on hard currency, but also the demand is increasing by the minute, and also that is inflationary. So we have these cross currents going on, not only on real estate, but on everything. But on goods and services, I believe that is going to be, we're going to have deflation in a lot of staples. Okay, now let me get some water. I don't have any questions. Mostly people saying hi. Hi, everyone. Connecting right now. All right. So don't come with this mindset. First, you're not gonna buy, regarding real estate, you're not gonna buy a McMansion or a penthouse or a luxury property for 10, 20K. That never happened. You, back then, on the bottom of the market, that was on 2018, wasn't recently, was on 2018, you can get decent properties, 1 2 bedroom apartments on good locations between 20K and 50K. And right now, the prices have double or triple before the operation, that right now, the prices since then has gotten up 20, 30%, something like that, depending on the market. And also the markets are heterogeneous. So it's not the same thing, a nice area on the east side of Caracas that a city in the middle of nowhere. So do the apples to apples comparison. Also, don't go crazy with Margarita Island. Margarita is beautiful, of course, and there are a lot of pros, but also some cons. And it's not the first market. It's a top tier market, but it's not necessarily the best market. And don't use something I'm seeing a lot. Now, the reason, something that regarding real estate, people from abroad, that they're using, for instance, I see a lot of beachfront property as the reference for investing in Venezuela. And I'm not saying that having nice beachfront properties is not nice. It is, and has some influence on the prices, but it's not the main thing. I mean, remember that beachfront property is valuable because it's quote unquote scarce. But in Venezuela, we have a lot of beachfront, and so it's not that scarce. And for instance, Margarita Island is a huge island. So of course, you're surrounded by beaches. You have like 100 beaches in Margarita Island. So using just the reference of beachfront as a rule of thumb is not necessarily, it's part of the equation, but not necessarily the main thing. Also, something that if you're coming from abroad, if you come with that attitude, that since you are special because you're a gringo or a European, whatever, don't do that, because you're gonna fail. Like I said, Venezuela is not cheap. So if you come here and your only you are a one-trick pony that the only thing that you have to show off is your passport. You are not gonna make anything in the country. Because first, Venezuela is not cheap. So you need money. You need some money in order to invest or whatever. Just arrive to the country, you need money. Just to arrive in the country. That's one thing. Other thing is that in Venezuela, there's virtually no mortgage market. So you are not gonna get a property with a loan or anything like that. And the very small subset of loans that are in the country are for Venezuelans. They are not for internationals. So you're gonna waste your time. There are a couple of ways that a handful of properties you can buy, with a payment plan, but it's just for a couple of years and the interest rate is high, so it's not worth it, especially if you come from abroad. Other thing is that don't think that you are the big shot because you have a particular passport. That doesn't happen. That failed miserably, for instance, with the Russians. A couple of years ago, since like 4 or 5 years ago, Russians had a particular, charter flight from Moscow, St. Petersburg, I don't remember, to Venezuela, and they're still going on, those charter flights. So basically, they have a travel package that is, for their standards, is pretty accessible, and you can do a payment plan for that and travel at the end of the year, something like that. And a lot of, middle working class Russians visited the country, and they are still visiting the country. And also, I believe people from Poland have a similar deal, but mostly Russians, and mostly on Margarita Island. What happened is, they arrive, they are mostly people broke, let's be honest. They're broke, but they save a lot in order to have a nice vacation on the beach. That you don't have that in Russia. And also after the special military operation in Ukraine, Russians have seen limited their travel options. They go to Turkey and a handful of other places, and Mexico, whatever. And Thailand, I believe, Egypt, places like that. But Venezuela is one of those handful of options. So, and they come, they think they are the big shots because they are Russians or whatever. First, the Russian passport is actually way worse than the Venezuelan passport. The Venezuelan passport has access to the European Union. The Russian passport doesn't. So technically, the Venezuelan passport is way better, just on the free visa travel and whatever. And that's the first thing. The other thing is that being Russian in Venezuela doesn't give you a particular preferential treatment. Is not aspirational. For Venezuelans, being Russian, that's not aspirational. Being American, being, British or French or something like that might be aspirational for some people. But being Russian, that's not aspirational for any Venezuelan, for that matter. So these people come as big shots and going to the restaurants, going to the small shops or with the street vendors, and they acted like big shots and start, haggling with the vendors or whatever, or the realtors, acting like they're big shots when they are not. And very quickly, after just 1 year or 2 years tops, and the reputation right now amongst people, mostly from Margarita, because that's the place that they go the most, the reputation is that Russians are terrible clients. So most small business owners, vendors, realtors don't want to deal with Russians. So they are rejected every time. Oh, good Lord, a Russian client, or whatever. And so basically, Russians burn. Okay, sorry about it. Got some issues. The internet where I'm right now. The point is that Russians burn their reputation on the street level. I'm talking realtors, small business owners, or whatever. They don't want to do business with them. They don't want to mingle with these people. And if you're watching this, and let's say you're an American, a Canadian, a German, a Brit, whatever, don't do that, because you're gonna burn not only your own reputation, but you're gonna burn your own nationality's reputation within Venezuela. The other nation that I'm seeing close to that is the Germans, actually. So if you're watching this and you are a German, please, of course, Germans is different because first they have a very narrow-minded view of the world, and also they have this mindset of it's my way or the highway, whatever, and also Germans tend to be very frugal. And please, so if you're watching this, try not to burn your own reputation in the country. People won't want to make business with you or whatever. Now, going back with this thing that Venezuela is not a poor country, it's an impoverished country. In Venezuela, there is a lot of money. The issue is that Venezuela is the second most unequal economy in the world, right after South Africa. So just a handful of people have the most money, what in Venezuela we call enchufados. Enchufados are similar to the Russian oligarchs. Well, they are the Venezuelan oligarchs, just for the sake of the conversation. So most people are broke, but this handful of people have not only millions, in some cases they are billionaires. So they come willy-nilly and spend a lot, like Kingdom Come. And you know that every now and then you're gonna get an enchufado. So if you're selling a property, you are doing business or whatever, an enchufado can just cover the quota for the whole month and maybe the whole year. So if you come here just come to Venezuela with just a couple of bucks, thinking that you're the big shot, that's not gonna work because in Venezuela there's a lot of liquidity. In order to put it in context, Venezuela has a GDP right now of roughly 120 billion US dollars. That should be on half a trillion. Yeah, I want to address a little bit more on that later. The private savings of Venezuelans, including the enchufados, the people, the migrants there are 8 million abroad, most of them are, getting by, but there's 1.5 to 2 million Venezuelans that are actually doing very well abroad. So that private saving, also private savings of, let's say, 10-20% of Venezuelans that actually have a very comfortable standard of living within the country. And also you have businesses from Colombia that they know very well Venezuela and they want to reinvest in the country, and yada yada. You add up all of that private saving without even including the oil companies, and you have the lowest estimate is 250 billion US dollars on the sidelines, and the most, very realistic estimation of $1 trillion US dollars on private savings, on cash on the sidelines, waiting for being invested in the country. That's almost 10 times the Venezuelan GDP. And the lowest, most conservative estimate is $250 billion. So that's more than 2 times the Venezuelan GDP. So if you think that cash, the only problem that Venezuela has is cash, no, that's not the problem of Venezuela. The problem is the structure, the rule of law, and clear, stability in order to attract that money back to the country, providing goods and services. And that's the key. It's not necessarily about money. You need money if you're going to be an investor, but you need to provide value on some shape or form. And that's the main reason. If you are not someone that can provide value, I don't recommend, Venezuela is not going to be for you. Other thing, that I've said this many times, but if you are new on the platform, I'm going to repeat it yet again, is that if you're watching this from abroad, especially from the West, Europe, whatever, and if you are not successful already in your home country, you are not going to become successful in Venezuela. So if you are broke, if you haven't made something out of yourself, a particular career, a particular profession, a particular business trade, a particular talent, a particular, know-how, a particular know-how of anything. If you haven't accomplished that in your home country, you are not going to achieve it in Venezuela because it's going to be even worse. You have nothing to offer to the market, and you have no money, no skills, no business experience, no know-how to the market. no funds, and just your passport is not going to do anything. And actually, it's counterproductive because, for instance, right now Americans need a visa for visiting Venezuela. The Europeans, the Brits, the Russians, of course, they can, and most of the nations in Latin America, they can visit Venezuela without a visa. That is complicated to get. Right now, apparently it's going to getting a little bit simpler right now. But also Venezuela has a reciprocity policy. Kinda, for instance, people from Chile, people from Peru, from Panama, those countries require visa, travel visa to business, for tourist visa for Venezuelans, and Venezuela requires tourist visas for these people, and it's complicated to get. Those visas are complicated as well. Anyway, and so don't come with that mindset. So the good news right now is that we are still on a particular transition after the special military operation until we are going to have the definitive status quo that's going to rule Venezuela years to come, decades to come. So that's good news. Now, let's talk about the certainties that the Venezuela overall, not only the Venezuelan economy, but overall has. The first thing is that the Venezuelan economy is going to go up. How much is going to go up? That's the main question. Right now, the latest estimation from Asdrúbal Oliveros, my favorite Venezuelan economist, but I kind of was congruent, my own estimation, is that the Venezuelan GDP this year, 2026, this current year, is going to grow at least 10%. It's going to be double digits. We don't know how much. That's a conservative estimate, the 10%. I think it's going to be more, actually. And then it's going to compound, double digit, compounding for a few years. And then we're going to be close to that $500 billion because, it's very simple. Just stop destroying and we're going to reach that $500 billion. Right now it's 120 or something like that. Also, the same analysis says that the Venezuelan oil GDP, just the oil GDP, is going to grow 30% this year. Both estimates, I agree. So that's a certainty. This is not an estimation that might happen, wishful thinking, la la land, kumbaya. No. This is, all the fundamentals are there. You just need it to stop destroying, and if you stop destroying, And also the sanctions, let's be fair with that. Now, the sanctions didn't destroy the economy, but the sanctions are hindering further growth, but the oil sanctions are going to be lifted, and the only sanctions remaining will be against the individuals on the Venezuelan government, the rest, what is left of the Venezuelan government, but they are individual sanctions. Okay, so growth, that's a given. That is going to happen. Frictions, some frictions, the question is how many frictions are going to be lifted, but a lot of frictions are going to be lifted indeed. Most of them are self-inflicted wounds that right now apparently they're going to stop, like the currency and things like that. Okay, we have that first certainty. The second certainty is that we have at least a 3-year window because this transition happening in Venezuela is due thanks to Trump. And Trump has the political will and right now the political necessity to make this thing in Venezuela work for his legacy, political career, and also for the political future of Marco Rubio and people like that, the top guys on the Trump administration, including J.D. Vance, because he's poised to become the nominee for the Republicans in the next election. And J.D. Vance is not as involved, but still, if this thing goes sour in Venezuela, the Democrat candidate is going to use it against J.D. Vance and most likely lose the 2020 election. So at bare minimum, we have until the early January of 2029, that's the inauguration day for the next president of the United States. So we have a clear 3-year window and guaranteed GDP growth. Guaranteed GDP growth. And I don't like saying guaranteed, but it's guaranteed. So you have two certain things. How it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, the rest of the time frames,
But no, that's why we're doing this work day by day. And the good news is that on this, we're on third waters right now, you have the time to do the due diligence. Not much time, but still have time. Other, question and comment that I want to address. If you're this guy, they like to play safe bets, safe investments. By the way, if that's you, cool on you. If you're waiting for the fundamentals to be perfect, like Venezuela's going to be Switzerland or something like that, yeah, you're wasting your time, dude. I mean, just move on and do something else. You're not waste your time. Of course, Venezuela is risky. However, it's way less risky than the perceived risk abroad because most of the people abroad, the narrative that they have is from CNN or CNN or Fox News or Al Jazeera or these, pro-Russian podcasts or whatever. And if that's the only thing that you know of Venezuela, of course, you have the wrong picture about the country, at least an incomplete picture. Uh, so the risk is way lower than most people think, still risky. Don't get me wrong on that. And the last thing, and this is usually be the first thing if you are a serious investor in Venezuela, is that the paperwork, in order, you need to get some paperwork in order to become an investor in the country. You legally can purchase, buy and sell properties, businesses, whatever in the country. That case is individual. There is not a streamlined way in order to do it. If you're gonna go just on Google or ChatGPT or whatever, you're gonna fail miserably. It's a hit and miss situation. Each situation is very particular. So I cannot say, I cannot give blanket statements on that regard. Let me see, we have some questions here. Mostly people saying hi. Not particular questions. Let me check other messages and some other news that we have right now on some other, some old questions. Traveling to Venezuela, there are a handful of flights, mostly from Panama, that you can take. Remember, if you're American, you need a visa. Same thing with Canada. What else? Now, something that I want to share as well. This is an analysis on how the Venezuelan currency will behave. You know that Venezuela is de facto dollarized, but this is a weird dual bank that there are currency exchange controls in the country. The Venezuelan government fixes the currency value at certain rate, but it's not real because the real rate is the one on the streets, on the black market. And this is something that has been going on since 2002, and that has one of the main reasons why the Venezuelan economy has been destroyed. So I have this analysis from Andres Guevara, the 5 possible scenarios on what is going to happen with the Venezuelan currency. The number 1 is leave the local currency just like it is, and this is the most coveted option according to Guevara. This is the most desired option for the most of the politicians in the country because basically that keeps, when you control the currency, social control. I agree with that. And right now, this is the current system that we have right now, but the economy is de facto dollarized. So at some moment it's meaningless because people buy, sell, charge, and peg their prices on USD, not on the local currency. The second option is the Panama model, that basically is de facto dollarized, but the local currency is just, nominally still exists, but de facto dollarized, like in Panama. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay, we lost the signal for a while. Okay, let's go back. So we're saying that there are 5 scenarios for the Venezuelan currency in years to come. The first one is going to keep the same shitty system that we have right now, and that's the one that we're going to have for the next few months for now, but still the country is de facto dollarized. Number 2, we have the Panama's currency model. In theory, we have a local currency, but de facto is everything dollarized. That's most likely what is going to happen. Everything is going to be traded, the systems or whatever, on the USD. Number 3 is the Ecuador's model, that they are not de facto dollarized, are not nominally dollarized. Everything is dollarized, period. There is no such thing as a local currency in Ecuador. And it's a very likely outcome, according to Guevara, but still most likely won't happen, and most likely the Panama model. Number 5, we have the Hong Kong model. I like this one, but according to Guevara, spoiler alert, that's not going to happen. Basically, we're going to have a conversion rate that is going to be a peg between the local currency and the USD. And according to Guevara, and I agree with him, unlikely, because you need very strong institutions, financial institutions, in order to implement that. And we don't have that, and that is not going to happen. And the 5th one is free currency competition. But it's not going to happen. In theory, it's beautiful, but in practice, it won't happen, because the mindset of the authorities, Maduro, Chavez, and even the current ones, of course, are the same as Maduro, and even the ones like 30 years before the Chavismo, they have a mindset of being as statisticians, so basically control, central economic control. So basically, this socialist, social democracy, and on the last case of the Chavismo, they are communists. Well, basically, they want to control everything, and there are a lot of legal and ideological barriers, according to Guevara, to be implemented. Very unlikely. And I agree. So we're going to have something like Panama. That's my, if I have to bet the farm on one of these 5 options, yeah, I'm betting on Panama, not in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is beautiful. Yeah, I love Hong Kong. Also, checking the prices on real estate, they are going high, 20, 50% depending on the property. I'm seeing a lot of properties with outrageous prices. Something I have to remember, that if a lot of people, the novices, and by the way, if you're a novice, I mean, it's nothing bad. You're just starting. But the first question that they ask me, can you recommend a realtor? No. I only recommend realtors to my clients, not to random people. Here's why. First, realtors don't know how to deal with internationals, because you need to go through a legal and complicated process before you can even legally buy a real estate property. And first, the realtors, a small minority of very top realtors, and I have a lot of them, and you have the majority of unsuccessful realtors. And then the top realtors don't want to deal with internationals because they don't have to. They prefer to deal with the local rich people that can invest instead of internationals, because internationals need a complicated legal process and they are not going to wait for that. They want what is known on the real estate jargon as a qualified buyer, a qualified client, someone that has the money and has the willingness and the possibility of legally purchasing a real estate property. And most of the internationals doesn't know this because they don't know about the legal process. And the unsuccessful realtors are the ones trying to get international clients, but they cannot do anything because if the international doesn't have the legal presence in order to invest in Venezuela, therefore they won't be able to purchase a real estate property in Venezuela. So please don't ask me again if I know if I have the number of a realtor. I only give realtor numbers to my clients because the realtors that I know are top realtors and I don't want to waste their time or your time or my time. So I don't give number to realtors, only to my clients that already are the process and are quote unquote qualified clients. That's the first thing. Also, the realtors, the only thing that they know is sales, so they are salesmen. If you're an investor, they are not gonna give you advice on ROI or growth or GDP or macroeconomics on possibility, anything like that. If they are selling a terrible property, they are gonna sell you a terrible property at the highest price that they can. And that's it. So don't rely on realtors for macroeconomic advice. Rely on them when you are already decided that you want a particular property on a particular location. They are going to do their best in order to manage, the due diligence and the red tape with the municipal authorities in order to sign you the property. That's the strong suit of the Venezuelan realtors. For the rest, if you're thinking, they are investor consultants or legal consultants, yeah, don't waste your time. Also, if you're someone very stingy, very frugal, and you want to buy the property, but you don't want to, there are a lot of associated costs. Honestly, if you are struggling financially, I don't recommend to purchase a property in Venezuela because you're going to see the results in years to come. And most real estate, don't treat the Venezuelan real estate as crypto, as a meme coin, a meme stock, or a Wall Street Mets, diamond hand, baby. Yeah, don't do that because first you're going to end up losing the little money that you might have. So treat this as a long-term opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities in Venezuela. At least, like I said, guarantee on the next 3 years, and the Venezuelan GDP is going to grow exponentially on the next 3 years. We don't know how much on 3 years, but we can see bare minimum, I think we're going to double GDP on the next 3 years at least. Because, and the reason, yet again, the Venezuelan economy, 80% of the GDP was artificially destroyed. In order to get it back, just stop destroying. And that's it, nothing special. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And Venezuela has been historically a rich country. There is a lot of pent-up demand on the non-oil economy, and the oil economy is going to have a very quick cash injection. So we're going to reach an hour here on the live stream. We don't have more questions. Want to review some more questions. Please follow me on my second channel, Venezuela Insider Plus. That we're gonna. I mean, this is just more of a fun channel that I'm gonna address things that don't have to do with Venezuela, and mostly, travel, leisure, dating, or some geopolitical analysis from other places. I mean, it's just for fun. Don't get it, and do it just having an alternative content. And Venezuela Insider is going to be, of course, focusing more on the day-by-day issues, the tax brass of Venezuela. I think I'm going to reach an hour. Don't see more questions. Yeah, I have a couple of things, forgot. I didn't wrote that down. Is safety in Venezuela? Well, we're going to see right now there are 2 tiers of safety. The street level, Venezuela is actually fairly safe for Latin American standards. On the government level and authority level, police officers and people like that, sometimes they target internationals, and that's the main question. But apparently that is going to stop with, the Trump controlling the country, Trump administration controlling the country. Apparently that is going to stop. For the visas, we have to wait. For right now, we have the same process as always on that regard. But yeah, for safety, I'll say it's safer than previously expected. And right now, okay. And right now, but yeah, let's say safe, but still have some precautions. Yeah, I have a question here from Hans. How difficult is the paperwork process as a European in order to buy property? Is a lawyer needed right away to start this process? Well, it's a case-by-case scenario. On my particular case, you'll have to speak with my lawyer here on Venezuela Insider, a consultation, a paid consultation, and you can get an analysis from my lawyer, that is, of course, a lawyer. And the process, yes, is a hit and miss situation. So legally, you can do it yourself, but it's gonna be a lot of hit and miss going on. Also depends on your nationality, your country of residence, your particular profile, your particular interest on the country, and so on. Okay, beyond safety. Now, let's go with how risky actually is Venezuela. Well, if you buy a property, regarding financial risk, I don't see it as a risk at all. The properties are going to go up, regardless, unless you buy a terrible property, way overpriced, and that can happen. But for the rest, I don't see, losing a particular, a significant amount of money. I don't see that on the financial side. Most of the losses are going to be, you're going to lose a lot of time. And also, if you do things wrong and you don't know what you're doing, just winging it, you're going to lose a bunch of time and you're going to lose money, but mostly on the, sorting things out. You're going to overpay one thing, you're going to go to the wrong place, the other thing, you're going to waste a lot of time and money, of course. But money on the properties itself, I see it very unlikely. You have to be very dumb, very naive. You have to really screw up horribly. But for the rest, I don't see the properties dropping. And also remember, each market is different. Each particular region is completely different. The economy within Venezuela, in Caracas, of course, completely different that, let's say, on the interior, or on the center west, or on the east side of the country, or Margarita Island, whatever. The economy works is you have a bunch of subset of economies within Venezuela. And of course, what I would like to do is either you buy on a very good market, regardless if it's a expensive property, a luxurious property, or a crappy property, at least on a good market, you can get a lot of value on that. Or if you want, you wanna play on the casino. If you're gonna speculate and that's it, you just want to speculate, there are interesting options for that, with a lot of upside potential. Okay, I think that will be all. We don't have more questions. Let me check here. Yeah, I don't have much questions. Please, if you want to become a client and if you want a one-on-one consultation, VenezuelaInsider.com, a paid consultation. I don't do consultations for free, by the way, and something that I have to clear that out for some people. Please go VenezuelaInsider.com and you can send a message and my assistant will book you for the week, and after you pay the fee for my consultation, my one-on-one consultation, of course. Still creating content. We're going to keep up with the news. A lot of things going on. So thank you again for your attention in this live. We'll see each other on the next video. Yeah.